Conrad Adams was an immigrant. He came over from England in the early 1900s. He worked elsewhere. I think it was in St. Louis. He was involved, I think it was with Pierce. They designed and built the first fire truck. Later moved to South Bend and started Adams Engineering in 1926. I think he saw the opportunity in the South Bend area, made a commitment to the South Bend area, started Adams Engineering. I think there's been, over the last 100 years, there have been several points in time that were critical to the trajectory of the business. My great-grandfather started the business, and I think, in addition to tool and die that he was doing, servicing Studebaker, they found a niche for automotive trade shows where they started animating moving parts. So for example, an engine, they would do a cut-through section of the engine and animate the parts that were in it with lights and movement. That kind of got us onto the automation path that moved us towards special machines. Later, my grandfather and my father picked up the special machine side and started doing friction welding. So there's a huge point where we took on the friction welding business. And then when my brother, sister, and I came into the business, we looked at several investments, linear friction welding, friction stir welding, a joint venture which turned into a wholly owned in the UK. There was the invention of low force. One of our customers brought us an opportunity that turned us into a brand new product line. So there are several of these decisions along the way that really helped propel the business and create the trajectory that we're on. My father approached Caterpillar because we had been building inertia welders under subcontracts since the mid-60s and said we wanted to buy this technology and start building them on our own. We ended up with a handshake deal with the manager at Caterpillar. Ironically, a day later, somebody else came in while my dad was trying to figure out the financing and offered more money for the same technology. But in those days, a handshake deal was a handshake deal, and Cat honored my dad's offer.
So my father worked at Caterpillar Tractor Company and was part of the friction welding group there. And when they sold off that business and MTI was formed in 1976, he went along with Dietmar Spindler and maybe a couple other employees from Caterpillar to start this company called MTI.
I get a phone call, and Conrad, Dan and father, he asked me if I'd like to come over and interview for this new company, and he lived in my same neighborhood roughly. So I walked over there on a Sunday morning, spoke to him for a little while, and unreal, given this, again, interview experience, I walked out with a job offer and a salary. Never really realized that I was 001 employee, okay? I just actually designed the original logo for the company on a napkin in Jim's Steakhouse in Peoria. Then at the time, I added flash curls to identify it from the inertia welding or friction welding.
When I first came to the Mishawaka plant in 1976, really comprehending that this was the start of this friction welding global leader, I certainly didn't understand that the company had existed for 50 years already, had no comprehension of that. But the idea that there was going to be 50 years after that of development and that I was going to be involved in most of those 50 years, never could have comprehended that. But honestly, I can say it's always been a joy to work with all the MTI people. I mean, I've worked with Dan for 2+ decades.
As we look at the aerospace industry, there's two sides, right? You have the aircraft industry with jet engines, and then you have the space industry as well. Our background in space goes back to the 1980s, early 1980s, where we built a special purpose machine for Aerojet Rocketdyne to be used on the Space Shuttle project. Yeah, the aerospace industry has always been very important to us. I think the hot dies for titanium was sort of an entry point that we had on the Adams Engineering side. But as the aircraft companies started looking at ways to scale their process have more reliability in their engines, they turned to friction welding. Even to the point in, I think it was 88, we designed and built the very first Model 2000. GE called it an 800, but it was a machine that didn't exist. At the time, it was a huge financial risk for MTI, but was critical to the engine business for GE. Now we have several of those machines throughout the industry.
We had a problem where our engines were getting bigger and bigger, and the machines were not big enough anymore to weld the parts. They didn't have enough inertia, the rotating flywheels, they didn't have enough force. And so we worked with MTI to develop the first, what MTI calls the Model 2000, and we call the Model 800. And that was the first of its kind. It was an engineering marvel at the time. I mean, who could have ever imagined in 1976 that there'd be a machine with a 16-foot flywheel? That the building wasn't even that tall back then. And so to be able to do these things is it's quite an engineering marvel. And that's saying a lot for a jet engine manufacturer.
Our customers came to us in the early 2000s as another machine supplier was exiting the market. They said, we want you to build linear friction welders. Linear friction welding was I'll say a technological step change from what we had been doing. But our customer intimate approach with the aircraft engine manufacturers is what brought them to us and gave us the opportunities to add another technology to the portfolio.
Is we had been working on the Pratt Whitney machine for probably 2 years. And now it was time. It was sitting in the back of the bay, and there was a wooden platform that went up to the operator station. So that machine is actually sunken into the ground at Pratt Whitney, but we had to put it up. So there's a wooden platform up there. And Pratt Whitney had, I think, head of manufacturing and maybe 4 other people here. And obviously there was some nerves amongst the MTI ownership and whatnot, I would say, to no end. But we were standing at that platform, and it was the first demonstration of the machine. And then it started the friction welding process. It sounded like the largest bumblebee you have ever heard in your life, and I'm sure they heard it upstairs. And the way titanium welds, sparkles fly off. It's like a 4th of July little sparkler, little tiny sparkles fly off. So there's this huge rumbling, and everybody's big eye, and they're kind of looking at it, and you could see it glowing, and there's sparks kind of coming off. And then all of a sudden it goes zoop, and it stopped. And there was a glowing weld right in the middle, and you could see what's called the flash out of it. And it was dead quiet. And people looked around, and the look on their face, and then there were cheers. I think there were hugs. I know there was massive relief from Bob and Dan and the MTI family, but just and our team, we had all the key team members up that were kind of high-fiving, and what a memory.
MTI has been part of the South Bend community for 100 years, and all of the people that are within it. And we want to make this a place where all of the hidden talent that is around here can come in and help us continue to the next 100 years.
But South Bend had always had everything that we needed from a skill set standpoint, the labor side, the supply chain side. So there was no reason for us to move. The other acquisitions and things that we did were really to become global and to be able to compete in other market spaces and defend the market space that we had here in the United States.
The success that we had with MTI Welding, and MTI Welding's just had its 20th anniversary, something that we're proud of. In 2015-16, we were seeing threats from the APAC regions. And with my experience of 20 plus years in India, I actually started to look and support a partnership for a company called FWT. And that's our latest acquisition as a business.
I think a 100-year-old company stays vibrant in fostering and developing the potential of people. And we take particular care in understanding who people are as individuals, where their interests lie, what problems do they want to solve, and help foster that interest that they have with the needs of the business.
The one thing that hasn't changed is the family-oriented environment. I've had the privilege of working with the third generation, the fourth generation, and now the fifth generation. It's really been a privilege for me to be able to work for a company for that length of time.
Legacy for me, coming in with a 100-year anniversary, is all about the people that work here. I started in 1998. There were 65 people working for MTI, and we had one facility. Now we're in 4 countries, and we have 250 people. So what we need to do for the future is very different now than what we did when I took over the operations in 2002. How we protect the workforce, how we think about the workforce, how we build for the future with respect to the workforce, all the technologies that we have. There's a lot more moving parts to the business that we have to account for with respect to legacy.
I think being the part of the 5th generation to be a part of the company, to me, I feel a great first sense of gratitude for all the work and all the people that have come before me, and the 4 generations that have laid a foundation that we get the opportunity to step into. And then I think I feel a responsibility as myself to come to work every day and hope to continue to play a small part in moving that forward. And I'd love to be sitting here and with the opportunity to present that same role to a 6th generation and contribute that.
When I look at the shared vision, the part that excites me are the opportunities that we have in front of us. We have some great programs that we could be doing, the development of low force, the development of machine analytics, machine learning, how AI is going to impact what we do from a business perspective. But when I first came into the business, one of the things that we sat down and did was we documented what our core values were going to be. We drafted a vision of where we wanted the 4th generation to take the business. That's something that the 5th generation is going to have to do. They're going to have to make sure that they can align around a vision for what the organization is going to be. One of the most proud things I have is the impact that we've had on the community. And that, I look at the technology and the way that we're doing business as a means to improve the world around us, namely the communities that each of the entities are in. And if we can continue to demonstrate that a small business can have a positive impact on the community, then I think that is a great shared vision for the future.
So if I was to try and look forward to the next 100 years, I think I would start by looking back at our previous 100 years and what's allowed us to stay in business to date. And to me, that's the customer intimacy. That's one of our core values here. And the applications that we've done, the customers that we've served haven't always been the same, but we've consistently been someone that our customers come to when they have a problem, and we're able to solve it.
What also sets MTI aside, in my opinion, is we can provide service. The same level of innovation in our machines globally, no matter where they're built, where they're installed, we will be that complete solution provider.
We're not done. I think the analytics moving forward is going to add a whole new dimension to the company offerings, and I think it can take us to the next 100 years.